nothing but love and respect. You might have some cool fans, but mine are the best. We've been through it all, went to war when duty called. Never left a man behind, we move as one is super strong. I don't want followers, that implies I'm the leader. I'm not the captain, I just gave them something they can believe in. I hold the lamp in the darkness, but they're the light that I needed to see the road that we walk in between the angels and demons. And my fans have my back. Hate us if your feelings don't like facts. And my fans will fight back. Beat you with the keyboard you've been using to write back. I guess we need each other like both sides of the battery. We the army, we the homies, we the gang, we the cavalry. We're brothers and sisters, we hold it down like we gravity. Can't nobody break the bond that made us all family.
Me and my fans, we don't care what anybody say. Middle fingers to whoever in the way, man. Me and my fans, we gon' be together till the grave. It's a game till forever and a day, man. Me and my fans, we don't even trip if they hate. We got all in our veins, man. Me and my fans,
We the hangover gang. Gang, 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 gang.
Aaron Tuttle here. It's storm season in Oklahoma, and with that comes torrential rain, high winds, and hail. To protect your home and your family from these threats, the one roofing company you should trust is Ferguson Roof Systems. They've been providing the best in roofing services for nearly half a century. Ferguson is Oklahoma's full-service roofing company, certified with an A+ Better Business Bureau rating and a 5-star rating on Google. And with Ferguson now offering Class 4 impact-resistant shingles, now is the time to trust them with your home's roof. Get started today at FergusonRoofSystems.com.
Hey there, meteorologist Aaron Tuttle back with you again. It is time to talk about the weather threat for tomorrow. So some of you may have tuned in to my 3-hour live coverage earlier on. So we covered storms in southeast Oklahoma and into far eastern Oklahoma, into Arkansas, all the way from the western end to right about into the Little Rock area. So we had a few tornado warned storms and a pretty significant tornado at one point here just north of Little Rock. So all that's kind of winding down over there. Things are quieting down a little bit by little as the instability wanes. So the question is, we're going to have more instability for tomorrow, and then will we see storms here back across Oklahoma City and Tulsa and the rest of the state, right? So thanks for joining me. So this will kind of be a continuation of our lunchtime live we had earlier today on your Monday. Kind of gave it to you straight from the car. Today we're giving it back to you on the graphics side. So thanks for joining me. Let's see. Guys on YouTube, make sure you're good and happy. I see you there. So, yep, everybody's good. Jim's in the house, as always. Guys on Rumble, also thanks for checking in. Had a lot of Rumble watchers tonight for the severe weather coverage. See you guys on Twitter and then also on Facebook. I'm going to post a link. So, I'll actually post it on YouTube as well. So, if you want to attend my live event for my weather classroom, my severe weather classroom, make sure you RSVP. So I'm going to do a severe weather presentation on Thursday evening, talk about all kinds of severe weather stuff, from hail, wind, lightning, flooding, tornadoes, what to look for, what to watch for, what they are, what's the differences between watches and warnings, all that kind of stuff. I talk about how to seek shelter from that, the do's and don'ts, some of the myths, all that. So it's a family affair. It's a great educational tool for all kids of all ages, including mom and dad. So it's a family deal, so make sure you guys get together and RSVP on that. So I just posted the link on both platforms so you guys can join in to that. That'll be this Thursday at 8 o'clock. So I hope to see many of you there. All right, with all that said and done, I think it's time. We got to get into it, right? So first thing I want to show you is there's still a few storms out there in southeast Oklahoma. This is around Colgate. These have been just hail producers. They don't even really move. They just sit there and just rain and produce hail, and then they die out, and then another one forms. So, but this will be the tail end of this. This is all wrapping up. Otherwise, nothing else is happening across the state. And out here across Arkansas, these little orange polygons represent severe thunderstorms, no longer tornado warnings. So in each case, everything is looking much better. So that's some good news. All right, let's start you off here. So the tornado watch tonight will be expiring here soon, but it's for the eastern parts of Oklahoma and Arkansas. And like I said, things are getting more stable, so that threat's coming to an end. But what is not coming to an end, unfortunately, is the fire danger. Oh, we desperately need some rain. So big time, extreme fire weather conditions. Look at this. You only got one category to go. That's historic. Nobody wants historic. So this is extreme fire weather risk out here across the western third of Oklahoma tomorrow. So do not burn. Don't do anything that's going to cause or spark a fire, including cigarettes, chains on the vehicle, parking in dry grass, all that kind of stuff. Just be smart about it. All right, so the severe weather potential from the National Weather Service does highlight the central parts of Oklahoma on into the east and enhanced risk. This is really a repaint from the Storm Prediction Center, but on a close-up view. Hail up to the size of baseballs, and we saw this in baseballs tonight. As a matter of fact, in one of the storms I was tracking in southeast Oklahoma, the hail algorithms went up to 4.5 inches in diameter. Holy moly. You want to talk about some big hail? That is some big hail. Winds up 60 to 80 miles per hour, and tornado potential is low. You're like, wait a minute, low? For 8 days I've been hearing Armageddon, all doomed. How can it be low? We're going to talk about all that. So thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like and share this video. Tell your friends and family about AT's weather. We get to the science. We tell you the real deal, the real data. We don't just hype stuff around here. All right, so here's a look at the eastern half of the state. Same idea from the Storm Prediction Center. Low, big hail, big wind. All right, so your standard, typical severe weather stuff. All right, the potential for tornadoes we mentioned, low out here across the I-35 corridor, and nothing out here in western Oklahoma. All right, so the upper level storm system is way out here. It's in the Pacific Northwest. And what we have is this little first wave zipping on through. And most of it, as you can tell, the track is kind of in this region here, right? Well, unfortunately, the body of Oklahoma is pretty big, and it's only kind of barely scooting by our region for tomorrow. So we don't have a whole lot of lift thanks to the jet stream, unfortunately. It's all up to the north. I say unfortunately. If you want storms, it's unfortunate. If you don't want storms, you're dancing because there's a whole lot of lift up there. But look at this mess down here. You see all this? This is another little weak upper low, or you can call it just a little disturbance, an upper disturbance. And this is going to zip its way through Texas on into the day tomorrow early on, and then into southeast Oklahoma and Arkansas. So this is the troublemaker. This right here screwed up everything, which I'm totally fine with. So you see all this enhancement in the cloud cover? That's going to produce a big wave of clouds. And these clouds, when they zip on through, reduce solar heating. It prevents the air from mixing out, keeps the cap strong, does not allow us to get really hot, so the instability falls as a result. So a lot of good things are going to happen thanks to this little wave down there, but it will still trigger some severe weather, and we'll show you that. So here's a look at the energy with that. This is the upper levels of the atmosphere, the jet stream pattern for midday tomorrow. You can see it moving through all of Texas, and there's our big lift up here for this storm, which is well removed from Oklahoma. So head into the afternoon hour. Some of that lift does work into the state, so I expect some cloudiness with this. I expect some scattered weak showers with this as well. And then down south, there'll probably be some thunderstorms in Texas mixed in with this, some of this severe. And then that will continue to bubble up some thunderstorms across Louisiana and Arkansas, where better instability will reside, as they've had a chance to heat things up in the afternoon before a lot of this arrived. And then back up here to the north and west, most of this energy for the big block, if you want severe weather, seems to be focused kind of in this quadrant right here. All right, if you want severe weather, that is your best place to be if you're a storm chaser. It does not look like to be here in Oklahoma, and even in parts of Texas, it's questionable as far as how good the severe weather will be, and same thing for Arkansas, although there will be some. I can expect at least a couple of tornadoes. If you really want a tornado type outbreak, up here is where it's at. All right, so that's a quick look at Monday afternoon, just in the jet stream pattern, the energy in the upper levels. A little bit lower, here's a look at the lift that comes in. The red equals the brightness of the red, or the darker colors, or brighter colors, I should say, equals more lift in the atmosphere. So it's a moderate zone that comes in the morning hours through midday. And then you're going to see some scattered shower storms develop in and amidst that. But if you notice in Oklahoma, we don't have much lift. Kind of quiet around here until the dry line tries to get fired out here in western Oklahoma. By the time we head to the dark hour. But we have a problem with that. The dry line's not going to behave, and that's okay with me. We'll show you why. Let's see. Let's zip on through to the next map then. I'm going to try to go through this as fast as possible. There's a lot of stuff to show you, but I'm going to try to condense it some. So here's a look at dew points surging to the north after tonight into tomorrow. So the question is, do we have the deep moisture around? And yes, we do. By the time we head into the afternoon hours, there's lots of upper 60s for dew point values. So yes, we do have the one necessary ingredient for tornadoes or severe weather in general. Out here in the west, you can definitely see where the dry line is. We'll zoom in here to that, but you can also see down here in Texas, also some good juicy weather. If you like the moisture, like that, you know, that feeling of the coast. It's moving north. All right, so here is a look at a close-up view of that for tomorrow. So we're going to focus on here at 6 o'clock. I want you to see something here. We have a problem In most cases, the dry line is centered, let's see, of course it separates the moist air from the dry air, right? And in most cases, like I mentioned, we only have a very light component out of the southwest. And on the east side of the dry line, we have kind of a very light southeast component. So in other words, we do not have a strong east-southeast or a strong west-southwest. In other words, we don't have convergence. And the dry line does its best to fire storms when there's convergence, and we have very little to none. So that's a problem. That's a weakness. That means it's hard to get storms, especially when there's a cap in place, which there will be. And if I do look at a cap, for example, and let's just pick some spots here on the map. I'll pick Oklahoma City, for example, at a 6 o'clock time frame. What is a cap? This big red line right here. This is the temperature profile. You're not going to break that cap. It's a strong one. It's up around 200, and it needs a convective temperature of 91 degrees. You're not going to hit 91 if you're cloudy skies and there's been a few sprinkles around. So this is going to be another fly in the ingredients. If you want severe weather, that's going to be problematic. So it's a very low probability that anything breaks along the cap tomorrow. I mean very low. Not zero, but almost zero. It's about as close to zero as you can get in a situation like this. Now we talk about the return of instability. Let's do that as well. So this model does have some Cape values coming in, which is, we've got the instability because we already had some here in southeast Oklahoma. So it didn't have far to travel to get back up here. So at 3,500 joules. So we do have, we have a few ingredients, and a few of those ingredients could cause some problems. So if I were to, let's see here. If I go 5, 6 o'clock, 7, anything good here? So we're already starting to mix out what moisture we had west of I-35 in this particular model, because we've got some subsidence and some weird things happening down in Texas moving northward. That's drying out the lower levels, and so it's just not as good or conducive as you would say for severe weather. So we'll get back to that here in a minute. I don't want to get too technical, some illusion. But here's a look at the severe or significant tornado parameter. In other words, the brighter the colors, the better opportunity for a tornado. Let's see where it goes for the afternoon tomorrow. At 0Z, it is loving this area of Kansas. So basically right around the border to Wichita, up to the north and east. Doesn't mean you'll see storms there necessarily. It just means those are the best ingredients to get storms. If you look down here south, well, we didn't have much going on, and then some storms kind of messed up, and some rain kind of messed things up here in southern Oklahoma. So yes, that does mean we should potentially see some storms crossing the border. I mentioned those at lunch today, and that signal is still there. It just won't be those dry lines fired storms as it looks right now. So headed to the evening hours, there still is a significant tornado parameter that does return to southern Oklahoma, but we don't have anything to fire storms off of at that point in time. So you can have the most potent, best setup ever for severe weather, and you can have a few things get off on that aren't lined up, or just a few things, a few little wrinkles, and the whole thing is wasted. You get nothing. It's called a bust. So there's a lot of talk of all this, and it turns out it could be a huge bust tomorrow. Right now, the way you look at the data is looking still. There has to be some dramatic changes tomorrow for me to change my mind and to be really excited about severe weather outbreak here in Oklahoma. Right now, I'm on a low end probability of that even occurring. All right, so here's a look at the afternoon. If you really want severe weather, you want tornadoes, you really want to know what that's like, go up here to Iowa. So when you factor in the forecast soundings for this area, conditions are so strong, you get a PDS type tornado warning development in that with EF4 to EF5 type level tornadoes. I mean, that's what the atmosphere is loaded with for tomorrow up there in Iowa. So that is where the severe weather will be. So it's a small area, but it is up in the northern part of the country, not the southern part. So now let's talk about this. I think I want to let's skip this for now. What you will notice, let's just go ahead and skip this. I'm just going to show you. We're going to look at all the high resolution models to give you an idea of whether or not they're producing any storms here across Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, that kind of deal, right? All right, we'll start you with supposedly our flagship model. So you can see what I see, because a lot of this stuff just came in. It's hot off the presses. So I haven't had a chance to see all of this stuff yet. So we'll look at it together. All right, so it's got Tuesday, middle of the afternoon. It's already got showers scattered around, sprinkles here in eastern Oklahoma, maybe down southern Oklahoma. It's got cloudiness rolling through for eastern half of the state. Then we got some bigger storms bubbling up here across north and central Texas tomorrow evening. Now this particular model carries them eastbound, so they do not enter Oklahoma. Make a note of that. They do move into Arkansas and Louisiana, So some rough stuff there, but nothing too bad. I don't even see really any strong tornadic signatures for that. On Wednesday, sneak peek, there's your storms on Wednesday through Arkansas, Louisiana, eastern Texas. So did you see that? Did you notice that? I'm telling you, man, that for hyping this 3-day period up for an entire week, getting everybody all freaked out, that's not very much action. So I want you to keep this in mind about the boy who cried wolf so that you don't fall for it the next time. I don't want you to be safe. I do want you to prepare, but don't freak out 8 days away. Wait till we're like 2 or 3 days out from an event before you really start to take everything too seriously. It's this time of the year, things can change pretty quickly. So that's my soapbox. I just got on and got off of it. All right, so now we're going to the next model. Let's see what it does. Showers scattered in nature across the eastern half of the state. Again, in Texas, that first wave moves through. Nothing happens after that. It stabilizes, doesn't do anything. Here's a line of storms for Kansas that clips northeast Oklahoma. There's a line of cells that go up in Texas again by the time you head into Wednesday morning. And there's a Wednesday afternoon event for far eastern Oklahoma and Arkansas. So this particular model gives Oklahoma just a taste of some storms right there in the middle part of the afternoon. So probably after about 1 o'clock, something like that. Otherwise, it's got most of the action there into Arkansas. And yeah, there's probably a couple of tornadoes with all that mess. Okay, so that's the second high resolution model that usually does pretty good. Let's go to another one. So these are what we call CAM models. They're designed to sniff out severe weather. All right, so here we go. Same idea, little showers. Now what happens here? Now here's where we're talking about. This is the first model that indicates stuff may be crossing the border. I mentioned this at lunchtime, and here it goes through pretty much just right around the Ardmore area. But watch what happens. It comes into the state and it dies out. Here comes that second wave. It tries to come in the state. It kind of hangs in the southeastern corner of the state, and that's it. And then goes into Arkansas and Louisiana. All right, so that's at least a signal that some of it may try to cross over the border as it develops into northern and northwestern Texas. All right, so let's go. Which one was that I picked? That was that one. Okay, so let's go to the next one in line. Let's see what this one does. All right, so we're going with time. It's got that stuff tonight that moves on out. And then tomorrow, same idea. Sprinkles, clouds throughout the day. A little windy tomorrow, by the way. South winds gusting up around 30, maybe 40 miles per hour. All right, so there's those storms. You know, they look like they're going to try to make their way through North Texas and in Oklahoma, then they fall apart. There's a couple guys out there in southeast Oklahoma, and that's it. Those move out, and those are gone. And then same thing, mostly a big show for Kansas, Louisiana, and eastern Texas on Wednesday. All right, we're running out of models here. Have you noticed that? We're trying to find a model that gets you storms. It's not easy, is it? Each one of these uses slightly different physics and has a slightly different interpretation of the atmosphere. I will tell you this one. This one is the most aggressive. If it's going to storm at all, this one will pick it up. If there's even a chance, let's put it that way. So here we go. Here's 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. It's got storms crossing over the Red River into that little quadrant I mentioned right around Ardmore, west to, this is Duncan, of a couple of storms that may be supercellular in nature. But I do notice a signal here, which means they fall apart really quickly as they move into central Oklahoma, say toward Norman, etc. And the ones down south didn't do much better. Now there in far southeast Oklahoma, they held together a little bit better as they worked their way toward Arkansas, and then they just light up Arkansas like a Christmas tree on down south into Louisiana with some rough stuff there. Again, that is the most aggressive model I could find you that shows anything to happen. Your take home, here's Wednesday, look, far eastern Arkansas again. So your take home here at this point in time is the dry line never fires because of those limitations I mentioned earlier. All right, here's the Texas Tech model. It's got the stuff tonight. Let's see what it does tomorrow. Here we go. It too tries to develop a couple of storms along North Texas and cross over the border as we head into the 5 and 6 o'clock hour. But look what happens. See that? Boom. It gets in that stabilized air and it falls apart. They never really amount to much. It does fire off some stuff into Kansas, that little area I drew for you earlier at the start of the news broadcast, but that doesn't last more than a few hours, and that's gone. And then as we head into Wednesday, it lights up Arkansas again and on down south into East Texas, Louisiana. So you are probably at this point hearing a broken record, right? So this is the last one I'm going to show you. This is an experimental run. New physics, so I haven't really played much with it. It's also pretty aggressive like the other one because it has partially the same scheme. The FV3 scheme, which is appear so far, and the way I've been watching, is a little too aggressive. Just a little bit. All right, so let's see. It's got the stuff there tonight, moving out. Let's take a look at tomorrow. Is it going to do anything? Look what it does. Brings those guys across the border, right toward Duncan, with some helicity tracks. It does. Looks like it's making a beeline right through the I-35 corridor, Pauls Valley, Paoli, and then right into Norman, with some helicity tracks, which means some large hail, some damaging wind, and possibly a tornado. And then as we head into the 7 to 8 o'clock hour, it kind of breaks down and scatters across central Oklahoma through the metro and surrounding areas, but they diminish and weaken as that happens. So it's kind of like they make a run for central Oklahoma, and as they get closer to the metro, they start to fall apart. So I have just shown you the most aggressive model there is in existence on these type of CAM models that are supposed to detect severe weather. Now, this one does have a little last-minute hurrah just for some regular storms, southeast Oklahoma, late Tuesday night and Wednesday morning. Those others kind of clipping the state up here from Kansas later on. So there you go. I will show you this only because it's interesting. And it's going to be interesting for me. It'll be interesting for you. Because I don't use global models for severe storms forecasting. So this is just going to be just that's interesting. It is how we're going to file this. And we're going to pay attention just for the next time around. Because we have to learn, right? Because every time these guys are tweaking stuff and adding things to it, to make it better. So we're going to see if it does so. So the reason why I say that is because here's the European model, which is good for a global model and forecasting in general. It's not designed to forecast supercell storms. But I will tell you, it is predicting supercell storms, kind of starting here in central Oklahoma, but definitely down the southern half of the state, on into the I-35 corridor, all the way down into Texas. So by mid-afternoon tomorrow, about 3 to 4 o'clock firing up. And then they kind of, these northern they don't really do much. They fall apart pretty quickly. And the other half for the next couple of hours, races off to the east. And I don't think that's really a possibility as that model has it. But like I said, it was interesting. I tried to find you something that produced rain. And that was one of them. Right or wrong, at least I found something. And then we're going to go with the high-resolution Canadian model. Same idea, and we'll see what it does. And it has the same idea. It likes that I-35 corridor, produces, or at least tries to produce a few storms for 3 hours and falls apart. They don't move and they die. It's been doing this same signal for the last 4 or 5 days. So I don't know what to make of that. But hey, you know what? It's interesting to me. I'm not going to really think much about it other than the fact I'm making a mental note for forecasting purposes and just for interest's sakes. Okay, so we talked about the winds gusting up to around 40, maybe even as high as 50 miles per hour at times, especially in central, northeastern Oklahoma. Keep in mind the fire danger out west. And then finally, rainfall amounts with this. Best shot over the next 48 hours, again, it's going to be eastern third of the state, really. If we can get some action down here coming in across from, say, Wichita Falls up to the metro, we can add totals here. That would be anywhere from 1 to 2 inches, because supercell storms love to drop a lot of rain with the hail. So that would help out with the drought, but also would come with some severe weather. And then temperatures next few days, all over the place, upper 60s, low 70s. In general, warm day on Friday to 83, overnight lows right around 50, but sometimes dipping in the 40s. Still got to watch for 2 mornings we've been talking about here for a while. So one is Thursday morning, and the other is on the 19th. So if you have tender vegetation, you want to make sure they don't get succumb to the cold weather. Make sure you take care of those. All right, so if you are late and you're like, okay, Aaron, that was a lot to take in, right? So real quick, here's your summary. It's going to be very hard to get severe weather in Oklahoma tomorrow. Extremely hard. We have a few things that's messing everything up. So the bottom line is a low probability that anything happens. All right. Now, I will tell you the caveat. Should something happen, all right, so should a storm go up on the dry line, which no model has the dry line going up, and there's many reasons why. But let's just say whatever, all models are wrong and the storm goes up. It'll be high-based at first, hail-making. Once it moves into deeper moisture, toward, say, for example, Oklahoma City Metro, I-35 corridor, it will tap into much deeper moisture, a little bit better wind shear, and be capable of producing a tornado, and a probably significant tornado, like, an EF1, EF2 type deal. So not a high-end, but, moderate-end tornado. It's potentially there. Hail up the size of softballs or bigger, all right? Now, the storms that come in from, say, southern Oklahoma, trend there is the same idea. Big hail, potential for a tornado crossing over the border and then kind of slowly weakening as the farther north they go. That's it. That's the only outcomes there is. There's no other outcomes. That cluster of storms that moves through Texas would clip far southeast Oklahoma and then go into Arkansas and Louisiana. And then up in Kansas, a cluster of storms maybe firing up way up north near kind of Kansas City and back building a little bit for a few hours. So that's a potential area. But those kind of fall apart too as we get kind of toward dark. They lose their steam. The best area for tornadoes tomorrow is going to be in Iowa. Big ones at that. So you'll see a lot of storm chaser footage. I'm sure my buddy Reed Timmer will be out there chasing that area. So that's right now the way it looks. So when I come in and look at data tomorrow morning, there's not going to be a lot of things that change. So if you're going, what is that? What do we need to make magic happen and to get a tornado outbreak? What do we need to make Armageddon? What do we need to verify 8 days of screaming at the ceiling that we're in for a 3-day event? All right, well, first off, it will never be a 3-day event, but we'll just say take Tuesday. What you need, better convergence along the dry line. What you need is a weaker cap. What you need is that system coming out of Texas to not produce cloud cover, much less any rainfall. Those are a lot of asks, but if you can get all those three things to not happen or not happen, then the atmosphere is completely loaded, it's ready to go, and then our typical severe weather outbreak type stuff can happen. So you're asking a lot. We'll see. Right now I'm not overly confident about any of that. I'm more confident that we get much of hardly anything. I will say this though. It only takes one storm to be a tornadic storm that causes problems, happens to go through a populated area. Like tonight, I'm going to give you an example. We had a significant tornado only, 10 miles north of Little Rock. 10 miles north of downtown Little Rock. So in other words, just on the outskirts of that city. Could you imagine like an EF2 type tornado going through downtown Little Rock and maybe the proper area of that? Now, see, that's a huge newsmaker. It's a huge problem maker, right? Here in Oklahoma, we have a lot of land, and most of our tornadoes do happen in a lot of these areas of land, undeveloped or farmland or just sparsely populated. So we have that going for us a lot. So it's like an odds deal, right? It's a needle in a haystack, and it's a big haystack. So all it takes is one storm, though, for it to be at the wrong place, and then it's a huge event. And of course, in the minds of those folks, and then people watching across the world, because it'll make news, et cetera, et cetera. So that's always in the back of my mind. So when I downplay something just because there's too many ingredients that say it's not going to happen, but the atmosphere is conditional, meaning it's still got plenty of ingredients to make something happen if this and that and the other all come together, and it does, and the storm goes up, that's the outcome. So you don't want any storms of significance in the outcome tomorrow, because that can lead to what I was talking about, being like a newsmaker. And we don't want any newsmaker storms. But as of right now, there's nothing on the table that screams just a widespread outbreak. We don't need that either. And right now, there's nothing in the data for days that's ever suggested that. So that's good. So tomorrow morning, I will pay attention to those things I mentioned. I will find out how much influence that southern disturbance has on the weather in Texas. I'll find out where the dry line is going to set up, and I'll find out how the convergence is doing, and finally how our temperature is going to respond. We have to hit into the upper 80s, and that's a big ask. Upper 80s across central Oklahoma. I don't think that's even possible. Today, I think we hit low 80s in southern and southeast Oklahoma, south of that front. So you're asking another 5 or 6 degrees. We'll see. Now in western Oklahoma, where, of course, behind the dry line, you can hit 90, no problem. That's not even an issue. But you don't, to get the storms going, you need 90 on the east side of the dry line, not the west side. You need it where the moisture is to work with it. So we shall see. There are, I will say this type of a forecasting event is very difficult because you have to look at a lot of data. And in the end, you got to pick a side, right? Knowing that if you stress too much one way and something happens, no one will forgive you. So you kind of have to listen. Odds, it's an odds game. Odds are things will be fine. We're gonna be okay. There's still that tiny little percentage though that one storm goes up and then you're tracking a tornado for a while. So that's kind of where we're at. But we have tornado singular events all the time. in Oklahoma. So why would tomorrow be any different? Only because it's been talked about for a week nonstop. So that's the only difference there. But let me think. So it's just a highly conditional type forecast setup. And sometimes they're really easy. Like the Iowa, when I showed you tonight, 30 seconds could tell me that thing's going to be a nasty event outbreak. Not even a question. But for Oklahoma, there was so many things coming into play that's going to mess this up and mess that up. And then if this comes in at this time, that comes in at that time, and then this does this and that does that. It's a mess. So sometimes you have those setups, and it is what it is. So your confidence at the outcome can vary depending on the event. So my confidence on outcome for tomorrow is pretty high of a very low impact event. All right. So, but it's not like 100%, right? I'm not gonna go out there to Vegas and bet the farm, but I'm pretty confident that the way things are going, it's not gonna be as much storms as maybe what you've been led to believe. So, but we'll see what happens out of North Texas and comes across. Could be a few storms there, for the southern, south central parts of the state. So we'll see if that happens, and then see if they weaken as they come across. We'll track those, and then if the drawing somehow were to magically fire storm or two off of that, moving east, we'll track those too. But that's it. That's all you can find, and that's the most aggressive. So that tells you something. If that's all we can get, and that's the most aggressive, that's not very much. So that's it for me. All right, so I will do you a lunchtime live tomorrow at right around 11:45 probably ish, and we'll see what the latest is, if anything's changed in the data. And of course, we'll be covering it live tomorrow evening. So I do live tornado coverage like I did tonight, and then we'll see what happens there in North Texas and track that in Oklahoma. If there is no severe weather, well, then I won't be tracking anything, but I'll be ready to do so. And that's about it. So thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for telling your friends and family about me, all that stuff. That way they get some good information on the weather. I just give it to you straight. It's all science-based. I basically tell you how to forecast. I really do. I give you a lot of stuff to where if you watch me long enough, you can pick up on it. I'm just going to scan YouTube and Facebook real quick before I sign off. Yeah, well, you have to realize, I see your comments on YouTube, you have to realize also that you need ratings for television to survive, right? I mean, if everybody were to turn off their TV, you do realize they would go away. Like the news, it wouldn't exist because they need eyeballs to sell advertising dollars. And like some networks are hurting. Like, for example, I think CNN as a whole has tanked horribly, like so bad that everybody's wondering how they're going to manage to feed themselves. So that can happen. So if you upset a certain demographic too far, and if that's even politics, or if it's, I don't know, whatever, pick a category, which happens to include a ton of people, well, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot, right? So in the TV business here, even locally, same idea. If they shoot themselves in the foot too many times, and everybody turns off TV and just watches other alternative sources, well, what are they going to do? They can't exist. It's like any business, right? If you don't have everybody walking through the door to buy your product, you got to close up shop. So it's going to be an interesting thing how the whole industry is going to shake out over the next 10 years. The last 10 years has already been shaky for them, trying to survive and having to go through the internet process. If you remember, it wasn't too long ago, they used Internet Meteorologist as a slam against me because I started something no one had done. So once they realized, oh, we better start doing that too, you don't hear that slang anymore. You hear the, oh, I'm an internet meteorologist, and I'm an internet meteorologist. We're all internet meteorologists. So, they're trying to hang on to whatever they can. So they're having to adapt very quickly in an environment that's changing fast. So, anyway, so that was kind of the point I was making. So you guys, it's up to you. If you want to keep watching competition, do it. If you like somebody on a certain channel, fine, but just don't complain to me if they get you all worked up. Because they have to. They gotta get the money coming in. They can't all be calm, cool, and collected because that doesn't drive ratings. So sorry, I hate to tell you, it's the old car wreck thing. You guys watch because it's a circus and you want to be entertained. Believe it or not, in the back of your mind, and fear is a huge motivator. I'm telling you, they work on your brain. It's funny, the more you learn about psychology and propaganda and fear and all this other stuff as motivators, and you learn how far back it goes, and You're just like, oh my gosh, I'd rather prefer not to go down that rabbit hole. So anyway, all right, so that's it. I think that's pretty much all. I want to thank you guys for the stars tonight on Facebook, both on the live broadcast for the tornado coverage, and then also for tonight. So Joe wants to know, how long will the clouds hang around tomorrow? Pretty much most of the day on the east of I-35. West of I-35, they'll be kind of partly cloudy off and on, and then of course much more sun as you travel toward the dry line and get through the other side of the dry line. But then you get to deal with probably some dust. And AJ, what's your thoughts on more emphasis on broadening your market more often? So I have thought about it. Right now I cover all of Oklahoma, which is a big deal, by the way. It's a lot to cover. And then I cover kind of like the southern third or so of Kansas, the western third of Arkansas, the northern Texas down to about Dallas. So that's kind of where I've been focused for most of the time, just because my time is limited. But if I could get a situation to where I had a lot more people watching to make it worth my while to do this full-time versus just a part-time fun gig, it would have to pay a lot of bills. And I'm not so sure about that. I didn't start this to pay bills. I just did it because I enjoy doing it and want to help you guys out. So it was never to make a business out of it and then live off of it. Now, there are some people that do that. It's dangerous, though, but there are some people that do that. And I guess they're successful. I don't know. I'm so busy in my own world, I have no idea what most people are doing these days because I got enough on my own plate. But, yeah, I mean, I've thought about it, so kind of just have to see how the reaction is, because I will tell you this. There is one person that I do know about on YouTube that does it, and he's very popular, and he's a circus act, right? And he's not a meteorologist. But you wouldn't know that because he doesn't tell you that. He's a fraud. He's a fake. He's a con man. Con men are very good at their game, which is why they're called con men. And he's making a lot of money off of people, and people have no idea. But at the same time, they're paying because it's an entertaining circus when it comes to severe weather. And now you kind of know why you have the Oklahoma City market and why it is that way. Same idea. You guys choose whether or not you want the circus or you don't want the circus. And it turns out you want the circus. Now, maybe not all of you, and maybe not all the time, but a lot of you want the circus. And that's why those people do exist. So that's why I don't worry about it. I just worry about me and where I'm going when I leave this place. And that's it. I care less about the rest of it. It's not my business. So that was it for me. You're welcome, Michelle. So I couldn't do this without Jody. She helps me out on the moderation and stuff now. That was one thing I just could not do as this whole thing got bigger and bigger. And I started doing more and more stuff on here for graphics and everything. If something had to give, and I was like, hey, I need you. Can you get in there and just chat for a while? And she's like, yeah, I can do that. So now she's been like rocking it. I see you on YouTube. No comments. I'm not going to say any names. Don't want to go there. But those probably knows who I'm talking about. Some of those guys that do follow. Okay, that's it for me. You guys be good, be safe, and we shall talk tomorrow around lunchtime, and then we'll see what happens tomorrow evening. If there's going to be storms, I'll be here for you. All right, guys, sleep well. Good night.